Hello everyone, my name is Ash, and The Elder Scrolls V. Where do I even start other than saying it's one of my favourite games of all time? It's a game that broke my addiction to first-person shooters and showed me that games don't just have to be linear and full of explosions to be fun. It's a game that's single-handedly responsible for widening the different types of games I now play. But no matter how many other games there were, none of them would ever be quite as addictive as Skyrim. And unfortunately for me, that addiction would contribute to what was probably the worst period in my life. I didn't play Skyrim when it first came out, because back then I was still a teenager who was only interested in playing FPS games all night and trying to get a good KD ratio. But in the summer of 2013, I met a guy at work who became a close friend due to our love of metal music, and more importantly in this case, our love of gaming. I remember mentioning to him one day that I liked the fantasy genre, medieval type settings, giant battles, dragons and that sort of thing. So he proceeded to tell me about this game called Skyrim, and I remember thinking to myself, I guess that sounds kinda cool. So on my way home that day, I popped into my local game shop, bought myself a copy, and gave it a try that very evening. Now, I'll admit, at first, the opening quest didn't really do much for me, despite the massive dragon raining hell on the place. Playing Call of Duty was glued to the back of my mind. However, once I broke out of that cave for the first time and the beauty of the world drowned my eyeballs and I saw just how open the game was, I was hooked. Seriously, this game became my version of crack. Instead of getting a decent night's sleep before work, I'd instead stay up into the early hours, exploring every cave, looting every chest, trying to level up every skill tree, trying out every weapon and spell I picked up, completing as many quests as I possibly could, and immersing myself in just about everything the game had to offer. Within the space of a few months, I had multiple high-level characters, had completed every major quest and side quest to my knowledge, done all the DLC, racked up hundreds of hours of playtime, and, because I cared back then, had gotten every achievement. Despite all this, however, I still couldn't put the game down until I noticed that, because of the consistent late nights, I was so tired that I wasn't doing my job to the best of my ability. At the time, I was working with a company that supports disabled children, and for a job like that, trust me, you need to be alert at all times. So my options were simple: put down Skyrim, or put these vulnerable children at risk because I was too tired to concentrate. Given that I didn't fancy losing my job, I quickly stopped playing the game and gave myself more time for other hobbies like my guitar, and more importantly, sleep. In doing these things, I had pretty much cured my gaming addiction, but of course, it wouldn't last forever. Over the next few years, I jumped back onto Skyrim here and there, but I had much more control this time. Well, I say control. I ended up getting addicted to lots of other games, mainly Dark Souls, and I also rediscovered my love for Halo. During this time, I would go on to participate in making this very channel along with Sam, Jay and Adam. Skyrim was now the game I would play on the odd occasion in between other games, and I had now found a nice balance between gaming and everyday general life, and had even gotten myself a beautiful girlfriend. And this remained the case for quite some time, until the end of 2018 to early 2019, where the addiction would return, and this time for the worse. By the end of 2018, I decided to leave my care worker job I'd been in for 7 years to try and pursue a new career, and managed to get myself a job lined up to become an engineer for a fibre optic cable company. I also had enough money saved up to enable me to move out. So that's what I did. I packed my bags and went to live with Jay. Yep, that's Jay from this very channel. And things were going well at first, but it was very shortly after moving in, however, that my first piece of bad luck for 2019 would come my way. I failed the final interview stage and didn't get the job, so I kept applying for other jobs for weeks in the area I was now living. I either didn't hear back from them at all, got rejected, or very rarely had an interview, all of which were unsuccessful. After this point, I grew so tired of not getting anywhere that I fired up an old friend to make myself feel better. Only this time, that old friend was in the form of Skyrim Special Edition. And this is the one thing I should not have done. Why? Because the addiction set in immediately, and within no time at all, many hundreds of hours had yet again been racked up. I'd created multiple characters again, and set out on a quest to accomplish everything the game could throw at me. And at the times I wasn't playing Skyrim, there was always another game being played. Before I knew it, weeks had passed, and despite the support and encouragement from my family, friends and girlfriend, I'd barely applied for any jobs. Instead, I'd wake up in the morning, go downstairs to eat breakfast, only to come back up, close my bedroom door, and proceed to play Skyrim or any other game I felt like playing, but it was mainly Skyrim. Before I knew it, it was 5 PM, and I hadn't eaten all day. In fact, I hadn't showered or even left my room. When my girlfriend called after she finished work or came out the gym, I wasn't engaging in proper conversation with her because half my brain was just thinking about what to play next. I was blind to the effect my addiction was starting to have on my relationship. I was turning into a lazy, inconsiderate person who was putting no effort into bettering my life. Eventually, the inevitable happened from having no job, and I ran out of money just 2 months after moving out, and had to go back to living with my parents, where I couldn't even afford to buy my own food or pay my mum rent. And very shortly after this, the worst happened. My girlfriend and I broke up, and the following weeks just seemed like an endless journey of tears and regret. Despite breaking up, we kept talking to and seeing each other because we didn't want to believe that this was happening. I tried playing games to cheer myself up because that usually works when I'm upset, but it wasn't working. I even tried playing my childhood heroes, Halo and Need for Speed, but not even they were doing the trick. I was completely bored, yet I continued to play anyway, just for the sake of doing something, even though I'd completely fallen out of love with video games at this point. I just didn't want to admit it. Eventually though, we had to accept the reality of the situation, and when talking about all the reasons why we broke up, I asked, "Is it because I played too many games?" To which she replied with, "That's partially the reason, yeah." And though my gaming habits weren't the only reason for the breakup, that was all she needed to say to make me realise that my addiction had gone too far, and how oblivious I was to how it was making her feel. I didn't see these problems until it was too late. What I had done was driven away this girl who was the best thing that had ever happened to me, all for the sake of just one more quest. And let me tell you, I've never regretted anything so much in my life. I felt like the worst person in the world, and I've never hated anything as much as I hated myself. And when I got home on that day after talking to her and turned my computer on, there it was, staring me in the face. The game that had become my curse. And at that very moment, I uninstalled Skyrim, removed any remnants I had of it, and refused to play it ever again. And at that moment, I stopped playing video games in general. For a long time. With everything that had happened, I was at the worst point in my life. I didn't want to see or speak to anyone, I didn't want to do anything or go anywhere. I started feeling depressed every day. I had no money, no job, had thrown away my chance with an amazing person. My life was at the lowest point it had ever been. After a couple of weeks, I was lucky enough to get my old job back, just so I had some money coming in again. The only problem was my now ex-girlfriend still worked there, so you can imagine how difficult it was, at least at first. That, combined with everything else that had happened, meant that I felt so low, I resorted to taking antidepressants. If anything though, this was a massive kick up the arse that made me realise I had to sort my life out. But it wasn't going to be easy. In time, and after weeks of staying away from video games, I was on the mend and did everything I could to sort my problems out. I quickly came off the antidepressants and after a while managed to find a job that I enjoy. I started going out with friends more to socialise and meet new people. I put more of a focus on my guitar playing as I felt I hadn't improved in years until now. I had more money, which meant I could do nice things and go to nicer places. I even began going to the gym to get myself in better shape and to teach myself some self-discipline. As a result of all this, I started to feel happier. I began to feel like I was getting somewhere in life for the first time in a very long time. And that alone persuaded me to push myself even harder to better my life. Eventually, I did go back to playing games, and I still enjoy putting videos out, but I don't play anywhere near as much as I used to, and honestly, I'm much happier for it. I also, after a little while longer, got back in contact with my ex-girlfriend, apologised for all the mistakes I had made, and we now have a very happy and healthy friendship with each other. But most importantly, I never let myself forget the effect my gaming addiction had on my relationship. And that, along with the positive things I've just spent the last couple of minutes talking about, is how I overcame video game addiction.
Time to face the music.
Everyone makes mistakes in life, and everyone learns from them. That's how we evolve as people. Video games are a product of entertainment and a thing to be enjoyed. They're meant to be an escape from real life, not become life itself. Many people suffer from video game addiction, and I can tell you firsthand, it's a very unhealthy situation to be in, one which can lead you down a very bad road. Games may be great, but don't let them take control of your life, because it's not just you they'll affect, it's the people around you too. If you've ever had any of these problems, or if you're going through any kind of difficulty in your life right now, just remember that you're not alone and there will always be someone there to help you, and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thanks for taking the time to watch this, everyone. I know it's not something we usually do on this channel, but it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, in the hopes that people won't fall into the same trap as I did. I'd also like to thank Sam for providing most of the Skyrim footage used in this video. I hope you've all learned something, and until next time, my name is Ash, stay strong and take care.